in terms of the work that I do, like it really takes like a good 2 to 3 months just to work through that initial sort of upfront clarity piece. Ultimately, like when you've got clarity in identity and you've got clarity in your intention, which I kind of use the word intention and strategy a little bit interchangeably, because ultimately, like strategy is just like a theory, right? It's like this is an
Hmm.
idea, this is a plan, this is how we could kind of go forth. In my mind, that's like what we intend to be.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues, the podcast where we interview business owners on how they built their businesses and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Wynn, and I'm a business coach and the founder of Purple Circle, where we help business owners achieve their first 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure year, all without sacrificing their quality of life. Before becoming a business coach and before founding Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7- and 8-figure coaching businesses, and have been a consultant at several businesses doing over $100 million each, including some that are publicly listed and doing over $1 billion each. In every episode of the podcast, you're going to learn lessons that took our guests years to learn, and you'll be able to learn that in minutes. No matter if you're a new business owner or an established business owner, every episode is going to give you the clues in order to elevate your business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Jimmy Moretta, a creative mentor and marketing strategist based in Perth, Australia, whose mission to help creative people take back what it means to make it has seen him mentor over 50 artists, creatives, and founders in the last 3 years alone. Jimmy specializes in the identity, mindset, and strategic thinking that sits underneath the tactics of growth, having provided mentoring and strategy services for artists, including Melody Pool and Stefan Rossi, and organizations including West Australian Music and Red Earth Dub Circus. As former head of strategy at Pile Rats and Made It in the Pile, Jimmy led campaigns for major names including Flume, Slumberjack, and NVIDIA, bringing real industry credibility to his work, helping creatives build sustainable career on their own terms. His core belief is that creative people deserve the clarity and power to design the career of their dreams without burning out or compromising what makes their work meaningful. Welcome to the show, Jimmy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Excited from the day we met. Now, Jimmy, I'm kind of a comic book nerd myself. Love the first editions, love the origin story. So let's rewind a bit. Because you could be doing so many things with your life, but here you are. You chose coaching. You're mentoring people, and can you walk us through how that looked like and why coaching?
Yeah. Well, I think as a foundational point, like I've always just seen myself as an artist. I always felt like I didn't really fit in with the crowd. I was always drawn to music and film, anything that was just expressive and loud. And navigating the world as a creative, I always found myself at odds with the advice that I was given, whether that was through schooling, university, or in my early career. As like an artist, as well as someone who launched a lot of projects early in my life, whether that was like a videography company with my mate when I was 18 or managing artists or what have you, I always just found like I was lacking the advice that I felt I needed,
Hmm.
and lacking the probably just the reflective points that I had within myself of how I saw the world. I couldn't really look up to anyone that could really, speak my language of creativity and the commercial world all in one. So that's where it all started. And then over time, I kind of just fell into a process of working with creative people, and I guess just building on all the learnings I've taken through my career, and putting them into a format that seemed to be helpful to other creative people. And then
Hmm.
I just loved it. Every time I was in the room with anyone that was a creative in any shape of the word, I just felt myself come to life. And that was really the moment where I thought, wow, like I want to do this all day, every day for the rest of my life. And that's what I'm kind of doing. So mission
Hmm.
accomplished, but the mission is still young.
Okay, so it sounds like, in a way, that you can connect with your clients, you the creatives, the artists, because you feel like you were in that same spot. You feel yourself as an identity piece, right? That you're not the classic suit guy that talks business but has no connection with people in the industry, right? I got that right. It's like it's some to an extent, you're almost like talking the same language with them because you feel like an artist.
100%.
Mm.
That's the main crux of it all. And I think I'm very sort of liberal with what I mean by artist as well. Like my fundamental truth in life is that everyone is an artist. So the way that I
Mm.
work with musicians or filmmakers or animators or actors or people who run marketing companies or people that are architects, you name it, like I treat
Hmm.
them all the same. They all have this creative inner child, this creative spirit within them. And I think the thing that's really resonated with the people that I work with is I'm able to really speak to that inner child that really just wants to create cool stuff and put cool stuff out there in the world, but is often at odds with the world, at odds with expectation, and is often just not nurtured. So yeah, I do get into more rooms as the guy that's not wearing the suit, and
Mm.
from what people tell me, it's sometimes a bit more refreshing, I guess.
I am not in the industry, obviously. I never been in the industry. I worked in corporate, I worked in banking. So I'm the other side of the coin, right? Wear the suit and all that. Worked in consulting firms here in Brazil. And but I watch the movies, right? And it seems there's always a clash of culture when we're talking business with producer, whatever, the label guys, whatever that look like, if it's film, if it's music, and then there's the creative side, and it seems like there's a disconnection between the two. Do you feel like you can navigate both, and that's like a strength you have?
Yeah, that's the way I see the world, and it probably draws back to my childhood. Like my dad, he ran a business. He was in the aluminium industry, so well, you could say it's creative in its own way. No shade on the aluminium industry. My mum was an artist, and I was always in this like push and pull of having a bit of my mum and a bit of my dad, where it's like, okay, like I want to make an impact and I want to grow something and I want to work with people, and commerce is a really good way to share ideas and to build an audience and to help people. But I also kind of want to fly my own flag and do things my own way. And I think I've just always lived in the push and pull of that environment that I was able to navigate that. And that's why I started in marketing to begin with. Was it was kind of just like right in the middle. It's like my dad wanted me to be an accountant or a lawyer. My mum was like, just be an artist, do whatever you want, express yourself, live. And I was just like, marketing, it's like kind of commerce, but it's kind of creative probably. So that was kind of
Uh-huh.
my middle ground. And then from there, I've just found like the benefits of like integrating two different worlds, two opposing dichotomies. I think that's a lot about what life is, like this duality of it is and it isn't, and I
Uh-huh.
really want to do this and I don't want to do that, but the necessary evil is there. So the way that I try to frame it is like commerce is the canvas for creativity. It can be like, look at commerce as a format, look at a way that you can use to share your idea, whether that is a startup, whether that is a new product, whether that is an album that you're making. Like without commerce, we have limited and different and positive in their own right ways to share creation. So I look at commerce as a way to share and to ultimately find resonance within a market or a community. So I love playing both sides, and I think that's where the coolest stuff in life is the stuff that you can't make heads or tails of it. It's both.
Mm. And it sits in between the gray area. There is no good or bad. It's a
Yeah.
unique thing. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I always distance myself from the binary vision, which is 0 or 1, right? There is also everyone is a hero in their own journey to an extent, right? But I'm curious still about the origin story, because we're talking about somewhat to an extent a business that is like what, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. But it didn't start immediately as a full time gig, right? The
Yeah.
affix. With purpose, or just a fix, as you may want to call it. So, what I'm really curious about is the shift from
Mm.
I'm doing this as a side thing. It's kind of happening, but there's a moment you kind of make the leap of faith, which is I'm hitting full gas on it and I'm building a real business around this. How did that look like for you? That leap, and the
Yeah.
transition towards like, I'm going to make this work, really, really work,
Yeah. I think this was like a really really formative time in my life. Like I was about to turn 30. I had worked pretty heavily at an agency and worked really hard over that period and learnt so much um, in that period of time. But I was, yeah, approaching 30, having a bit of a crisis, thinking like, okay, like I've kind of done the things like prior to like my life in like marketing agency music sort of spheres. I was like in the pharmaceutical industry, which is kind of like my other life of like a little bit more corporate and playing that game a little bit. And it's like, cool, I've kind of worked up a ladder somewhere. I kind of pivoted into a younger company and working with younger people in a creative space. And then I was just like, you know what, how am I going to fast track the next phase of my growth? And it was really like, what safety can I remove from my life? What comfort can I remove from my life? I am a pretty, comfort seeking guy. A lot of things have been static in my life. I've got the same cat for 8 years. I've got the same girlfriend for 17 years. I follow the same football teams, no matter how bad they're doing. So it's like, what is the new thing I can bring into my life? And I just thought, you know what? What's the risk of standing still? And the risk of standing still, working my way up a corporate ladder, was a higher risk than me just going like, hey, let me try put myself out there and work with people. And I didn't have a model, I didn't have a service, I didn't have clients. I was literally starting from zero and probably pulled the trigger way too early. Took ages to kind of get clients in a formal sense, had to do a lot of random work just to kind of make it work in the short term. Um, but I guess now looking back in hindsight, I'm so glad that I did that. But it was, yeah, it was a really tough decision. But ultimately, I could make sense of it because I was able to see the risk of not making that decision, basically.
Interesting. Okay. Now let me ask you this. After you got rolling right with your own business, and you were working that marketing agency, so I imagine you might have like you were kind of known in the industry, but who are the people that kept showing up? The ones you realize, okay, this is my tribe. This is who I can help. Because in the early days for coaching, and I'm not sure how that looked like for you. Sometimes we're trying to just make ends meet, trying to make the dream come true, and we're helping everyone, right?
Yeah.
But eventually we find our own tribe. So who do you
Yes.
serve, and how did that evolution come to place?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think it was really like a full circle sort of moment. I think when I initially like launched a fix, it was very broad, and looking back, I didn't know what I was actually doing, but I know that I wanted to work in more of a strategic and consulting way with different people and different organizations. But when you go to market with something and go like, cool, I'm going to help all these organizations like find their purpose, and I want to consult and mentor their emerging leaders and stuff, people turn around and they go like, who the hell are you? Like, what are you doing? So on the side, I'm like taking on all these artist clients and helping them with identity work, mindset work, everything through to strategy work as well. And before I knew it, it was like the artist side of things had kind of taken over like the other sort of corporate work that I was really trying to get initially. So at first it was the artists, it was just musicians and other types of artists that were really sort of resonating with my message and resonating with the way that I talked and my history and my experience. And then that led to creative founders. So but founders specifically within creative industries, whether that is, agency owners, or whether that is people who run event companies or music businesses, or hospitality style businesses and stuff like that. Again, my language of that creativity and commerce started to work, and then before you know it, we're back full circle. And then I'm also mentoring for emerging leaders within bigger organizations and mentoring communication teams or marketing teams within organizations. So it was the artists. And then what I found was the way that I talk to an artist and the way that I talk to a CEO or the way that I talk to a CMO is exactly the same. It's just I was playing this different, role trying to talk to these commercial clients versus these artists. And then once I started to just be myself and take the same models for my coaching and mentoring that I did with my artists through to corporate settings, that I actually found a way to serve all of these people, because fundamentally they're all creative people that want some type of growth within their life or career.
It's very interesting you brought up, right? It's like it was kind of the same, the work you did, but they were seeing you as a potential person that could help them. So it's more about them, their perception of you are the guy, the go-to guy, and not necessarily that you can actually do the thing, right? It's more about an identity piece, and that's about you know about that. That's the positioning, that's the marketing, so people can resonate with your message. But it's interesting because it's more about them than you. I always like to say this because I see a lot of coaches out there that they have a hard time with the positioning bit, because they're trying to serve everyone and people cannot resonate with them. They're like, okay, but who's that guy for me, right? Is that the go-to guy for me? So I think that's an interesting side note. But I want to do like a quick exercise with you. I want to pretend, let's really pretend, because I'm not an artist, right? Let's get that dialed in very clear. But on this scenario, I'm a creative founder. Yeah, I'm your ideal client profile, right? I'm the avatar. I'm that guy. So first of all, how would I be able to find you, like marketing wise?
Yeah. So my biggest thing is like my Instagram. I've got content coming out there, so people find me there. I do a lot of speaking engagements and speaking gigs fundamentally within the music industry or the marketing industry. So I get a lot of, I don't know, just FaceTime with people, and people really seem to like the content that I create in a speaking engagement format. And then outside of that, it's really just referral, and meeting up and having coffees with people and just meeting people. I'm a big believer in chaos and just meeting people by chance and getting in front of them and connecting with them on a human level. And that's really how people come across my work and come across what I'm about. And I guess it's just my conviction that kind of resonates with people, I guess.
Okay. So let's say I'm still that guy. Okay. Let's say I looked at your content on Instagram, or even I was in one of your speaking gigs face to face. I'm like, hey, Jimmy sounds like a pretty cool guy. He's chilled. Looks like he can help me. I reach out, right, to a fix with purpose. I'm like, hey, how do I work with you guys? We can speed up a little bit on the sales process. Let's say there is alignment. You can help me. I can sense you can help me. So can you give me and that guy the scenario, the hypothetical scenario of your avatar, a little peek behind the curtain on how does it look like to work with your company and outcomes I can expect, you know?
Yeah, of course. I think like for me, fundamentally the service that I provide is space. And when I've worked with so many founders, so many creative people, the thing that they don't have within their lives, the thing that they don't have within their career, well, it's two things really. It's time and space. I haven't been able to sort the time piece yet in terms of a time machine or anything like that. Time is not linear as well. We can get into that in another conversation. But the space thing, in lieu of us not having enough time in our days to do the things that we want to do or know how we really feel about something, space is the biggest weapon that we have to create change as well as to modulate behavior and pilot new behavior. So that's a lot of words to basically say the way to work with me is really creating space. It's getting in a room together, digitally or physically, in order to tackle the things that are falling by the wayside. It's about answering the hard questions that keep you up at night. It's creating a catchment within your week, within your month, within your day, in order to actually confront these things consciously, and to work out a path forward through those sort of challenges. So fundamentally, I'm just a big believer that every time two humans talk, magic happens. So the way that I work is really like, let's get in a room together, let's work out what the problems are, and let's work out the way to solve this. But generally speaking, it's just let's talk, and let's work together. Let's make the plan, and let me be your accountability partner and your advisor to help you work through this thing. So that usually looks like, some people like to do weekly sessions with me, fortnightly sessions, monthly sessions. Often I start with like a more intensive sort of workshop process, because a lot of the work that I do, it's always rooted in identity, and it's not easy to get to the crux or the core of someone's identity, their limiting beliefs, through just like a coffee catch up. So I like to spend 2-3 hours with someone, run a bunch of exercises that I've kind of refined over the last decade of doing this kind of work, in order to just really unlock the clarity that they're really searching for. Then we move into a cadence of working together within those spaces that I create in order to tackle the different priorities that come up within their life, as well as the unforeseen circumstances that always pop up when we have a good intention and we want to do something cool with our lives, but then life has other plans.
Right. Life's gonna life. Now, let me ask you this. On a tactical side, just to get a bit more on the detail here, we're basically talking about one-on-ones, right? You mentioned a workshop. Is there a one-to-many component? Is there like a minimum time frame we expect to be working together? Just trying to wrap my head around those details.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how I'm engaged, like sometimes I'm engaged with a group of people. So if I'm working with a band, or if I'm working with a collective who run a project or run a business, or if I work with a marketing department within a team, yeah, I have a one-to-many model. It still goes through the same sort of workshop and strategy process, but usually I'd also start with like a surveying process, because I think it's really important to gather that reflection, that moment in time of people to just get that full brain dump of like what's going well, what's not going well, how can we look at this problem in a different way, and then taking that into a facilitated environment with a group of people. In terms of the work that I do, like it really takes like a good 2 to 3 months just to work through that initial sort of upfront clarity piece. Ultimately, like when you've got clarity in identity and you've got clarity in your intention, which I kind of use the word intention and strategy a little bit interchangeably, because ultimately like strategy is just like a theory, right? It's like, this is an idea, this is a plan, this is how we could kind of go forth. In my mind, that's like what we intend to be, who we intend to be, how we intend to show up. Once you've got clarity on that, the rest of it is really just attention, like where are you putting your attention every day, and what are you making and sharing every day. And that requires a process that is ongoing. You don't water the seed once and then wait for it to bear fruit. So the upfront component, a couple months to really get that clarity and identity and intention, and then an ongoing practice of watering that seed. And timeframes really differ in terms of people seeing outcomes, and outcomes are really important. But I really anchor to the outcome of growth, because I think growth is really what we're all after in life. And growth has so many different definitions. So part of my upfront process is defining growth. What does growth look like, feel like? What does it mean to embody growth? And usually there are commercial aspects to that. Usually there are, fundamental market expansion components to that for people. But there's also intrinsic components to it as well, of like what I want my day to look like, what I want to spend my time doing, how I want my life to feel. So I never want to lose the intrinsic part of growth. But fundamentally, like the outcomes that people achieve from working with me is really just doing more of the stuff they really want to do, enjoying it a whole lot more, having the permission to do it, having the permission to enjoy it, and seeing like the synchronicity of the universe come back to them in different ways, shapes, and forms, which is always really, really cool to see.
Okay, now I am still that guy, okay? But I do have like a question for you. And you can correct me here if I'm tripping, but I want to create a scenario, and I'm going to add that quote you mentioned. Commerce is the canvas for creativity, right? Let's say I'm talking with you and I'm like, you know what, Jimmy? To me, commerce is not the outcome goal I want. I just want to do my art. I don't really care. It's just a necessary evil, right? I need to, in order to sustain myself, I need a commerce bit, but I don't really care that much. I'm more passionate about my practice. And there's a lot of AI out there doing music and whatever. I'm not that guy, okay? I oppose that. So how would you navigate an artist like me? I just created that guy, that persona that is kind of giving you a little bit of a, I don't want to call it hard time, but it's like not that fine tuned into the commerce bit. You know what I mean? And maybe I might be tripping here, or is that something that happened with you?
It happens a lot, to be honest. Like I work with a lot of artists who, and I think when we talk about artists specifically, I think that they're wired a bit differently. Some are very anti-corporate, and they don't really care about the money or anything like that. It's sometimes it's more tightly wound to appreciation and recognition, or maybe it's more tightly wound to expression and sharing and contributing back to community. I guess from my perspective, the way that I deal with anyone, whether they have an extrinsic goal of like I want X amount of fans or I want X amount of customers, it's finding the through line of purpose through that, of like, why do I do what I do, and what does the world look like when I'm doing what I'm really here to do, and then really connecting that to proof points in the real world. I think it's really easy for creative people, artists and founders alike, to live up in the stars a little bit. So I think it's really like grounding things in proof points of like, I want to see this in this reality. I want to see this in the real world. And then we've got a little bit of a sketch, a picture that we can compare to say like, hey, are we creating these moments? And sometimes they're fleeting. Sometimes outcomes are a moment in time. It's a conversation with someone. It's a piece of feedback. It's a sale. It's a project. But I think it's really important to create like a model for recognizing those things, and then like kind of like recording them and acknowledging them and recognizing them as well.
It's almost like, if I got it right, okay, it's almost like you're showing me, I'm that guy still. You're showing me that, for example, if I tell you, oh, I just want to impact more people, I just want to, show my art, you're like, yeah, you're gonna do that. Commerce is just means to an end, because you hit that, and through commerce, we're gonna get more people to, be impacted by your art or your creativity. So that is just fine tuning that the revenue or whatever that looks like is not the end goal, right? The true intention, the true purpose, it really is, impacting more people or whatever that looks like for me. Did I got that right?
Yeah, it's a part of the process, and for some,
Mm.
it's a weighting exercise. Like it's weighted heavier for some people, and for others, yeah, we use commercial tactics or we use commercial frameworks in order to help
Mm-hmm.
um, really like amplify their creative expression. Because I always use the story of like, well, if it's just about the creation, like we'd all just sit in our room and play guitar, right? But if you're
Mm-hmm.
choosing to get on a stage, or you're choosing to put out an album, or if you're choosing to create a product or service and like share it with someone, well, you have to find the means through which to share and to create resonance, or at least create the conditions for resonance. Because I think that's why we create things. We create things to share, to help others, and to help ourselves. And yeah, commerce is a part of that. It's not the only model, but usually it forms some part of it when we are navigating through this 3D dimension. Because ultimately, you want to put on a show, you want to release a product. It's going to cost money in some way, shape, or form, either directly or through your time that could be spent working a job, or earning money through what you create as well. So it's
Mm.
there whether we like it or not.
Okay, interesting. Now, shifting gears for a second, you mentioned managing space, right? Because we only have 24 hours in the day, everyone has the same. So I'm curious about one thing, because I've seen a lot of coaches out there advocating against burnout, and sometimes they're burning out themselves, right? Your work seems pretty hands on. We're talking about almost to an extent a customized experience. We're talking about speaking gigs. We're talking about managing bands, and all that. So how do you think about capacity and managing your own space so don't stretch yourself too thin?
Yeah, it's always a process of learning for me, especially because I love what I do. I just want to do it every waking hour, and I'd be the last to say that I've perfected this or I've got this right in terms of managing my own burnout or managing my own workload. I think when we're here to do things and create things, like we owe it to that purpose and to that thing to you know give it our all. At the same time, though, the work of a coach and mentor is to really facilitate and to help something emerge within the people that we work with. And you can't do that when you're pouring from an empty vessel, right? So
Mm,
what I've gotten better at, I won't say good at, I'll say better at, is recognizing the signs of when I'm starting to like run a bit low in terms of my own cup. And it comes back to the
mm,
fundamentals, honestly. Like if I when I start getting a twitch in this eye, I know it's time. It's time, you know. But what I really anchor to is just like not getting caught up in living my working identity. And
Mm,
you know, I had a really, really, strong process of just living and breathing purpose of just like, oh, I'm here to help these people. I'm here to help creative people, and I just need to be on, on, on. I need to say yes and yes and yes. And a mentor of mine really changed my perspective on purpose, and helped me understand that I have a purpose to just live and exist as a human being. I have a purpose to sit in the sun. I have a purpose to
mm,
sit with my cat on my lap. I have a purpose to go out and listen to music just because I want to, not because I feel some obligation to find a new client or to support a
mm,
client who's putting on a gig. So finding that duality of purpose of like, yes, I'm here to carry this flag for creative people
mhm.
and for founders, but also I'm here to just live and enjoy life. So that's kind of what I come back to, is just getting in nature and doing things that I just enjoy.
Just a dude, chill, just chilling a little bit. It's good to chill. Okay. Now shifting gears again for a second. Love to talk about future. I'm curious where you're taking all this. Where do you see Affix going? Looking
Yeah.
ahead, are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah. I think like for me, the last 12 months have been really my own sort of journey in clarity. And I feel like now, after working with so many different creative people and business owners, founders, marketing teams, like I feel like I've found my thing. Like I found my pattern. I found my thread that connects everything that I do. What I would really love to do in the future is ensure that a fix is this safe space that creative people can come to, not just for advice, but to unlock the the personal and ancient wisdom that's within them. So what that
Mm,
means is I want to scale my impact through reaching more people, talking to more people at once. I love the work that I do one on one with people, but as you know, like there is a cap to that, and there's also like a tipping point with working one on one with people and the opportunity cost of working with larger groups of people. So my goal is to work with groups of people, group coaching, event experiences, community experiences specifically for creative founders as well as artists and musicians as a starting point. Um, I still have an offering that I provide for marketing departments and agencies and stuff like that I'm happy to do and I really love doing. But I think that the best work that I can leave on this earth is going to happen outside of the workplace, and it's going to be an oasis that people can come to really connect with their purpose, their identity, and just
mm,
nurture that creative inner child that's within them. So yeah, more events, more experiences, more content, more speaking gigs, in short.
mm. Okay, exciting. Now let's you mentioned at the start, in the middle of the episode, we don't have a time machine, unfortunately. But now actually we do have a time machine, okay? And the time machine I'm proposing here, we have two stops. First stop is that you're going to go to your first day, then you started, a fix with purpose, and there you can give yourself one piece of business advice you wish you knew back then. What would that be?
Whoa, that's a great question. Um, I think it would just be like trust your gut, and like as an expansion of trust your gut, like what you believe is true. Like you have some internal truth that you're here to prove. Like you are authoring a story, and that story is going to be a little bit different to that person's story and that person's story. And it's okay if it takes you the long way. It's okay if it's a little bit of a dead end for a little bit, but just like trust that wisdom within you, because there is intrinsically some value to that. Like that's your unique take on the world. It's different to everyone else. No one had your upbringing, no one had your exposure to Swedish hardcore music. It's like the things that I've experienced, for better or worse, they are me. So like lean into that. And then I think the other thing would be to just like in the short term say yes. I think that in starting out I was a little bit unsure, and I was like, oh, is that the right thing? Should I do that? Should I help out that person? Should I freelance for that person? Should I take on that project with that client? I don't know. I just really think every time in my life and that I've said yes, or taking from the classic improv sort of tactic, yes, and it's like you can take something that maybe isn't fully there. You can take something that might not be perfect. You might be able to take something that you're not qualified to do, but say yes and to life, say yes and to these opportunities, take it, run with it, make it your own. Don't just accept it for what it is. Because what I've always found is everything's a conversation, and you can only do something cool if you're in the room. So like get in the room with people and make it work, make it happen. So those are the two pieces of advice I would give to myself.
Okay, I like that. It all starts with a conversation, right? Now we have a second stop. Okay, on that same time machine, sci-fi. We're still in the same scenario. You're like, you can go back in time from when you started. You can choose the moment, but it was like you wanted to relieve that moment because that felt so good. Like the best moment you had for you fill your cup. You're like, okay, this is the reason I'm doing this. What would that be?
Oh, there's a couple that come to mind. I'm really hard at picking one thing.
I can tell.
I feel like last year I had a really great opportunity with working with WA Music, which is like the peak industry like music body here in the state, doing a lot of like consulting strategy work. But that whole WA Music Week, which is really like our state's biggest sort of event for music, being a core part of that campaign, speaking at the conference, seeing a lot of artists that I mentor and work with, as well as a lot of businesses that I work with, like attending or having their showcase moment. It just felt like this big, like full circle moment for me, because I used to attend this conference, as a young lad trying to be a rapper when I was 19. We don't need to talk about that. So it was just like kind of coming back to the start, the hero's journey in some respect, where it's like you're back at the starting point, but the reality has changed and you've changed as a person. So that's really, really cool. And then I would say another one was pretty recently. I had a conversation with an artist that I've been mentoring and working with for probably like 2 years or so, 2.5 years. And we went through a process where he was really trying to get some grant funding to like put on a tour. He wanted to tour over East, and touring in Australia is so hard because we're in Perth. It's the most isolated capital city in the world. Like you've got to fly 4 hours to get to anywhere else to play music. He didn't get the grant. And then he was just like, you know what? I'm going to just fund it myself. I'm just going to try and put on this tour and play all these free shows on the East Coast. And together I helped him kind of put that together. And to be honest, he did a lot of the work. I was just there to support and guide. And then he told me a story about being in, I think it was in Melbourne or somewhere like that. And a fan of his that he didn't even really know he had fans there. Like these artists are still in a developing phase of their career. One of their fans had a disability and had organized for their carer to drive them 2 hours to this show in the middle of the city. And he was just blown away that their carer came up to them afterward and said, look, you've made this guy's day, you've made his month, like really loves your music and would never had the opportunity to see you live. And I just thought like, whoa, like you can't put a price on that. You can't put a value on the memories and the moments that the work that we do, the space that we create, what it leads to. Like people leave with those memories for life. My client has now a fan base over East. He has these proof points within his life that become stories for his kids, for his family. And ultimately it's just still another chapter in the story that he's writing. So for me, that just felt really good. And it was just a moment where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like I can bob my head up from like the hecticness of work and go like, it all means something. This is cool,
Okay, so I'm just taking notes here, right? Sweden hardcore, try to be a rapper. So at night, I mean, those are mixed signals, but it's all good. I'm not trying to fit you in a box or put you in a box, whatever that looks like. Now, I love that, man. I love the memories, right? And because they bring to ourselves, I think it's purpose. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, Jimmy, and we're going to have all the links in the description, but what's the best way for people to find you and connect with you?
I would say, yeah, best way is just Instagram, jimmy.moretta. Outside of that, LinkedIn. Otherwise, my email is floating around in the internet as well. But my inbox is always open. I'm always really keen to talk to people who share similar walks of life, have a story to tell. And in my journey as well, the work that I do, I've just learnt so much from my colleagues and contemporaries out in the industry, as well as my own clients. So always down for a real life or virtual coffee to learn something from cool people who are doing cool stuff out there in the world.
Okay. I gotta kind of do a highlight here based on the chat we had today. Okay, so bear with me. Back to the origin story, right? When you mentioned we are all creatives and we need to tap in, and it's almost like an awakening process. It's just like, oh, there is not that that you are a creative or you're not a creative. You just have to, come to the realization that that's possible. So I love that, because in a way you're serving past Jimmy, right? It sounds like the work you do is like a little bit for your own creative side back in the day, and still is, right? You kind of got to the gray area. You kind of do both. It's business and creative. So there's that. Very interesting. The quote, right? Commerce is the canvas for creativity. I really like that. I mean, it's immediate response from the public. It's like, it's the exchange. It's not just about money. It's about energy, and creating those memories while doing the thing you want to do, right? Also, highlighting you mentioned something very interesting, what comfort can I remove from my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting, right? It's just like, it feels like you know yourself enough that you got to push yourself sometimes to get out of your comfort zone so you can actually, have that spark, have that extra mile you're putting in. So very interesting. And last but not least, when we were talking about capacity, not stretch yourself too thin, you mentioned you love what you do. And that really hits home for me, because I am a coach too. And I'm not just a coach. I am the podcast host here for Success Leaves Clues. But that was not all of me, right? Back in the day, like I said, I worked in banking, I worked in corporate. And that's the thing. When I clocked out, man, right? It was like 5 p.m. sayonara to everyone. I'm home and I don't care about work. But right now, it's hard because I like what I do. So it's the other way around, right? Sometimes I need to stop myself. I need to create boundaries, or else I start burning myself out. But that's the thing. It feels like it's fun. It doesn't feel like work, but it drains you anyway, right? There's an energy output anyway. I mean, even if it's fun, I get tired too. So this is just my long-winded way of saying that. I appreciate what you do, man. I appreciate being here and sharing so openly today, so honest. It was great having you on.
Oh, no, I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate all the great questions that you asked. It's been great to reflect and to look forward, and excited for what's to come in life.
That's it for this episode. This episode, as well as this podcast, was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help business owners elevate their business to 6, 7, and 8-figure years, all without burning out. If you're looking to grow your business, as well as get the time freedom that you are looking for, visit us at joinpurplecircle.com and see what we can do to help you and your business.